perhaps a very rainy Thursday morning in Lagos. It depends on which part of Lagos you're in. For some, oh my goodness, it's super cold. Some others, well, out to work, and I don't know what Pepple is talking about, but it's okay. It's time now to bring you a very, serious conversation. It's Lagos Talks, by the way, and we're streaming live on YouTube. It's youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp on 0809 444 we'll throw the phone lines open when it's time for calls. My name is Victor Pepple.
And I'm Sope Martins. And for the next hour, Lagos, you are talking, no matter where you are in the world,
Right.
You can still be a participant in the conversation on Lagos Talks on Smooth Breakfast. Now, today's topic is a pretty interesting one, and one that, if it has not touched at least one of us, it has touched someone we know. We're talking about Ponzi schemes, legitimate investments, or Ponzi schemes. What's the difference? And our guest today is Ajibola Akamo, who's an investment analyst at Nairametrics. He covers cryptocurrencies, equities, and commodities with over 6 years of experience in trading and investment and 3 years experience working at one of the leading investment banks in Nigeria. So, he's got the credentials. Ajibola, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on board. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. Do we give the background story, or we just get straight into this conversation?
So can we, first of all, because this was something, 3 billion was the number that was trending on social media for a while. Let's give you a little background.
So there's a lady, right, who goes by the name Ovaiza Yunusa. She's the CEO, acclaimed CEO of Ovaiza Group of Companies. Now, she started out as a Facebook influencer, and she was she garnered the trust of some of her followers, and she was able to start like a Ponzi scheme. You invest XYZ amount of money into her agricultural business, then you get your ROI after maybe 6 months or 1 year. All of a sudden, it was a big deal. In fact, there are stories that there were people who invested up to the tune of 3 billion naira. And there were also stories of this lady trying to run away with people's money. Then she was reported and accosted by the Nigerian police. These are not stories that are new to us in Nigeria. We hear these stories every now and again.
Yeah, so, and this is the issue, right? We see these very lucrative or very attractive investment options coming out, especially when it comes to things like agro investment, right, Ajibola? And then sooner or later, the rot seems to set in. A company goes bankrupt, produce goes missing, one thing or another, and then investors, or at this point, victims, are now left without their money. So we really want to talk about this, and the fact that, there was news that came out in The Guardian about Nigerians losing 300 billion naira to Ponzi schemes and speculative trading. So that's quite a bit of money.
Ajibola first reacts to this trendy story, then we move on.
For me, like you said, it's something that we see almost regularly in Nigeria. And I would say that unfortunately for the victims, they got caught up in this web, and it just shows you the power of how social media can help you build a credibility that is not actually there. Then you use that power to actually influence decisions, and then you can use basically take advantage of people and then, ultimately defraud them of their hard-earned money. And it's sad because Nigeria in particular, high poverty rate and all that, and everybody trying to get out, if you know what I'm trying to say, or trying to make that money to better live in quotes. So, we see these things, and because of that current state of the economy, people are easily falling victims to these schemes. So I think on her own matter, I'm happy that the police has, basically accosted her. So, it's left to the SEC and, those in question or those in power to ensure that at least maybe some of these investors' money are able to be returned back to them. So hopefully that happens.
So let's just take it down to basics, right? Let's find out what exactly is the difference between an investment and a Ponzi scheme. So Ajibola, take us through. What's an investment? What's a Ponzi scheme?
That's right.
All right. So Investing. So investing is the act of you committing money in anticipation that, this particular thing I am buying or this particular asset class I am buying would potentially bring in income or a potential appreciation in value in the future. So that's where I make the money off it. Like I said, the key word is potential. It doesn't necessarily mean that I would get that future profit, in the long run. For example, if you bought Netflix shares at the beginning of the year, you see what Netflix did yesterday.
And
Yet
35%.
yeah, but yet today Netflix is actually down over 60%. So of course that guarantee of future cash flow is not there, but it is still an investment vehicle, right? Investment itself is the asset class that you invest in that you hope to generate income or future cash flow or future appreciation in value of the asset class itself that you invest in. So that's what an investment or investing is all about. But a Ponzi scheme is, I always use this term, collect from Peter and give to Paul. That is what a Ponzi scheme is basically all about. It's basically creating some kind of nuance of a legitimate business, try and get the public's attention to it and lure them with, how do I put it, enticing or astronomical returns, right? And then people fall victims of these things and then they collect your money. And then if you're fortunate enough and you come in as an early investor, because they have to show a track record that, okay, this platform actually works. If you're fortunate enough to get in early, they use the money of people that came in later than you to pay you and then try and pull on that legitimacy trend in quotes until, they are unable to continue or unable to meet up with their obligations because, people are now finding out or people are now knowing that these things do not exist. So the difference is one is a fraud, one is a scam, one is a criminal offense, and the other is legitimate, and the other one is real.
But now, what's the difference for the investors? Because like you said, an investment is something that you place your money in with hopes for potential future gain, right? That also applies to Ponzi schemes because you place your money in it.
Yeah, you're right. But the difference there is in investing, there's no guarantee of future cash flow. You can only anticipate the possibility of a future cash flow, but it's not guaranteed. And that's why I gave the Netflix example. I mean, if I bought Netflix shares at the beginning of the year, I didn't plan to lose 60% of my investment in just 4 months, right? But it has happened, right? But on a Ponzi scheme, they are guaranteeing you and telling you that you will make XYZ amount of money in the future. So that is the major difference. And there are investment vehicles, don't get me wrong, there are actual legitimate investment vehicles like government bonds, treasury bills, and like that do guarantee some sort of level of return in the future. But then you need to also know whether or not they are registered, with the right authorities or not. So that's also another topic that we should dive into later on in the conversation.
All right, now let's talk about pyramid schemes, where always an opportunity to invite more people and then you make more money. Is that also a type of Ponzi scheme?
I'll say yes and no. So a pyramid scheme is a Ponzi scheme when they take your money without giving you a value in return. So for example, if I am running a business that produces, say, AirPods, for example, so I picked AirPods because AirPods was the first thing I saw on my text. So I picked the AirPods and then, for example, I collect your money and I give you AirPods and I tell you that if you can bring in 3 other people that will get the same value as you did, bring in their money and then give you AirPods, that's not a scam, but it's also a pyramid scheme because they are giving you something in exchange for your money, right? But a pyramid scheme that is a fraud or a scam is where they take your money without giving you anything in return and telling you that, oh, go and meet XYZ or people in your family to bring money in. And in the future, you're going to get maybe 10 times of whatever you put in today. So that is the core difference between those two pyramid schemes. One is legitimate, the other one is a scam. And the one we see today is of course, the scam one where they take your money, they don't give you any value for that money, except for the promise that if you bring, for example, 6 people, you get one type of expected future amount of money. So that's it.
Ajibola, why do you think, in your opinion now,
okay,
Why do you think this thing is so popular, that we see so many Nigerians, despite the news we see on a quite regular basis and the astronomical sums we see people being defrauded of? Why do you think Nigerians still shun the red flags and go to the
I'll
I don't
say,
even know, the fire?
well, I'll say first thing is economy. We have a very, very high poverty rate in Nigeria. So because people are looking for ways, to get out of the current, economic reality. People are desperate, and that desperation leads people to do things without them actually thinking things through. So I'll say the economy is one factor. And you need to look at the way these Ponzi schemes, because I've actually studied some of them, how they rope people in. When you see a WhatsApp status of somebody that is involved in a Ponzi scheme, they always like to quote inspirational speakers. They quote Barack Obama saying something. And I think there's one particular favorite line they use, that if you are an employee, you are living on your active income, then you have to invest so that you can start your own business, and then you live on your passive income. That whole dynamic has always gotten to people, and that's what they're using to pull people in, using famous quotes from different investment personalities all over the world, and then try to paint that legitimacy and tell you that, oh, if you're not investing or if you're not doing this, you're not going to make money, yada yada yada, and stuff like that. So that is a factor. Also using all these kind of social media, basically using social media to pull people into these Ponzi schemes. Another thing is the lack of financial knowledge. Of course, with an economy with high level of poverty, you can, the lack of financial knowledge is there. And because of the lack of financial knowledge, and that is because of the, high illiteracy rates we see in in Nigeria, a lot of people do not even have the right information to even check these Ponzi schemes. And like I said, the way these Ponzi schemes and pyramid scheme comes to be is because, you have your friend that you trust so much, or your family member that you believe in so much coming to meet you, come and put your money here. So because that person has given you that legitimacy of the platform being legit, you then dive in and put your money there. That is also another reason why these things thrive. It's very, very dangerous. And another factor, although we've been blaming the economy, we've been blaming the business models that they've been using, or the scam models, I would like to call it, they've been using. Another factor is greed. Majority of Nigerians are actually very, very greedy.
Yeah, okay, let's not lie. That's a factor.
Yes, that's a major factor. And this brings me to my next point. People need to start putting things into perspective. Now, I always tell people something. If a scheme is coming to meet you and they're telling you, oh, we're going to pay you 30% every month, or 30% every three months, or something like that, right? You should ask yourself this question. If they're paying 30% every month, why do they need my money? You understand that? So when you ask
that's
yourself
actually a
this
good
question,
one.
Yeah, because you have to ask yourself that question. Why do you need my money if you can make 30% every month? Get a bank loan, go and make the 30% and become rich on your own. Why do you now need to collect money from me to make that 30% for me? You understand what I'm trying to say? So people need to start putting things into perspective and how sustainable it is. It is not sustainable. Even the biggest financial houses and the best traders in the world do not guarantee any form of return, yet they know 30% return on investment.
I still wonder how people jump on, some of these opportunities. The one that is trending down, she had said, 70 to 80% return on investment, and people still jumped at it.
Can you imagine? And don't get me wrong, 70 to 80% on investments, in fact, in a day, is quite possible, right? I mean, we've seen the cryptocurrency space last year. We saw Bitcoin rally over 100% in just a month. And, we've seen other cryptocurrencies, XRP, Cardano, and the likes. It happens, right? And those aren't scams. But the tendency of that happening on a regular basis, or on a fixed basis, or on a monthly basis is unrealistic. In fact, we're seeing it today as Bitcoin rallied to a particular point in May 2021, it crashed 50%. So it's not something that happens every single time. It's not sustainable, and people need to understand that. So people need to start putting things into perspective. Like I said,
we need to take a break now.
Sorry?
We need to take a break. When we'll come back, we'll pick
up. Okay, no problem.
We've got a number of messages coming in, and do remember you can also call us up on 0144 89981. All right, YouTube. So you get behind the scenes conversation. So let's see. We have a few messages that have coming. So when we get back on air, let's see. So Cruz is talking about litigation, like why can't we litigate? Then Ali sent in a message. Ooh, a long one. Let's see. This reads like what is happening to me right now. Hey. So Ali is actually a victim of this. So I can't wait to read Ali's message out so that we can actually see, we can have you weigh in on it. So Ali said that he or she, that they invested their money in an agro investment company in Victoria Island because of a friend who had invested. So you are so right. This thing also comes in because you now trust the person next to you. Yeah. He says, I'm still calling because this has been on for a year and some months now for what was supposed to be a 3 or maximum 6-month investment. I'm still calling and sending emails back and forth to get my money back, and it's been a whole lot of emails. Oh, that's sad. And then, oh, Zen says network marketing. Is that the same thing as a pyramid? Okay, so
network marketing is what I described as the legitimate one, whereby they actually give you a value for the money they're taking from you. So basically, it's a product, for example. So if they're giving you a product, that's network marketing. So basically, they'll tell you that, okay, if you're bringing in, buy our products, we'll give you this, but if you can bring in referrals, you can get like a 50% discount on your next purchase, or we can give you 10% rebate, something like that.
We're back.
Sorry, can you say that again?
We're back in 5 seconds. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's come back. Smooth 98.1. It is 18 minutes gone past 9 o'clock in Lagos. You are talking on this number 0144899981 for the final hour of Smooth Breakfast with Victa, Pepple, and Sope Martins. We have got Ajibola Akamo, who's an investment analyst over at Nairametrics, with us to discuss Ponzi schemes versus legitimate investments. We've already had the conversation from the beginning, from the top of the hour, about what exactly the difference is between a Ponzi scheme and legitimate investment. And people have started sending in their messages. So we're going to get to that because there's a lot of questions.
And interesting messages that they've sent in so far. Well, we'll begin with Zen. Zen says, good morning. How about network marketing? Is that the same as a pyramid? I keep seeing people touting premium priced products, saying to recruit people like yourselves to become part of the business. It seems to have lasted globally, though. For that's an example. And it says, it sounds too good to be true, then it's probably not true.
That's multi-level marketing, right?
Yeah, so basically network marketing is legitimate. Like I said earlier, when I was describing the 2 different types of pyramid schemes that are there, so far, you are buying into this and they are giving you a value for what you're buying. And basically it's a business model whereby, okay, you bought my product. If you're able to bring 2 people to buy my product, I can give you, for example, a 10% cash back or a discount on your next purchase, stuff like that. They are not, fraudulent. They're actually legitimate ways to actually grow your business, right? So far, keyword, there's a value exchange. They're taking your money and then you're receiving value back in return. So for example, I'll use a very, very vague one. If my barber, for example, I cut my hair for 1,000 naira at my barber's, store, and then he tells me that if I bring 2 of my friends to come and cut their hair with him, he would basically give me a 50% discount, or my next haircut is going to be free. That is not a scam. That is basically me helping build its own customer base, or its own business in general. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So that is not a fraudulent activity.
Okay, but is there a difference between network marketing and multi-level marketing? Because that's also known as pyramid selling, right? So I'm struggling to get the difference between the 2 of them, because if it's shaped like a pyramid, is it not a pyramid scheme?
So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's all a pyramid scheme, right? Pyramid scheme in itself is not a scam, right? But the way it goes, if, for example, if I'm collecting money from you without giving you a value in return, that's a scam, right? But if I'm collecting money from you and giving you value in return, that is not a scam. So there are those two parallels. So pyramid scheme in itself isn't a scam, but the way the pyramid scheme is structured is an entirely different story. Understand what I'm trying to say? So that goes with multi-level marketing, network marketing, and the likes.
Okay, now we've got this message in from Ali, who is going through what we are talking about exactly, saying, absolutely, this reads like what is happening to me right now. I invested a major sum of my money in an agro investment company in Victoria Island, and because a friend had invested and got their capital and return on interest, a year and some months now, for what was supposed to be a 3-month or maximum 6-month investment, I'm still calling, still sending emails back and forth to the company to get my money back, and it's just been a whole lot of emails. All this news coming out every day, I just don't want to imagine such for my money out there. I'm exhausted. So what I want to ask Ajibola is, are there bodies that regulate these companies, and are agro investments generally a sham? That's what Ali from Apapa has to say.
All right. So anytime you're investing in a investment vehicle, right? One thing you need to make sure you're doing, any investment vehicle has to have a special license. And I'm not talking about business name or certificate of incorporation. No, you have to have a license from the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria. So you can go on the SEC's website and look at lists of different, investment companies that you can invest in. It's on the SEC. So a very, very good check for you is if somebody is approaching you with some investment scheme, go on the SEC, check that company's name if they're listed there. If they are not, don't invest. If they are, you can go ahead, right? So that's a very, very significant check for you to do. And also, even if you don't, for example, you don't have access to the internet, which I highly doubt, you can do a self-assessment, like I said. If the return on investment is a little bit too good to be true, you need to do a self-actualization and ask yourself, why do they need my money if this thing is, if this thing is actually possible? So when you come to that answer, which I think everybody would come to that same answer, you will know not to invest your money in that particular scheme. And people even need to know there are commercial papers that don't even pay their coupons as a when due. And I think a major crisis that happened last year was the evergreen situation in China, where they were defaulting on their payments. And these are even legitimate business or investment vehicles that are even defaulting on payments. So there is nothing set in stone, right? So even if you do all these checks, there's still possibility that these platforms are still able to not pay up their money or run into issues in the future, right? So that's why you need to I always say this: seek financial advisors like partners and the likes. You need to start seeking these people out to seek financial advice, because these people know the nitty-gritty of how these assets came to be and the sustainability of these assets. So when you seek their advice, get them, to basically educate you and guide you on where you're supposed to put your money in, because every Nigerian works very hard for their money, and it will be sad for you to not, in quotes, for you to lose your money to a Ponzi scheme or a scammed pyramid scheme.
Okay, now question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you've talked about checking to make sure that they're registered and whatnot, but what about the ones that are registered? Is there, but it doesn't seem like they're monitored. How is it possible for that to happen?
So because they are registered, the SEC is the easiest people to take up the case. So that way they are reporting to a particular body, and the SEC would be responsible for litigating these people and ensuring that the investors are fully compensated for the money that they have gotten, or the money that they have lost. So that is why it's always good to go through platforms that are registered, although it still defaults, because there are ways around it, right? But when you go through a platform that is not registered, it is 9 out of 10 times it's very, very difficult for you to get your money back. I know a case of a particular Ponzi scheme that even up to now, even as the SEC has gotten involved, the police, the guy being arrested and all, for over 2-3 years now, people have not still gotten their money back. And that is where the risk comes into play. So always try to go through registered routes. Even if there's a default, there's more hope for you getting your money as opposed when you register to a company that is not, registered. And I think people should understand something. Anytime, you are in the space to invest money, the SEC, you have to register with the SEC compulsorily before anyone can approach you and say, I'm taking your money to invest in XYZ business. You have to be registered with the SEC. So anybody even telling you to begin with that, oh, invest in this, and they don't have a license from the SEC to show for it, and they are not on the SEC's website.
So can you ask them if they are registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission? That's the SEC you've been talking about.
Exactly.
So before you invest, it's okay to ask them if they have a license from the SEC.
A license. You need to do your due diligence. Of course, they should have their company name, certificate of incorporation. You should also ask them for their SEC license, and that shouldn't be something.
They might just feel like this one is not serious. Why are you asking for all this plenty information? Because you want to put how much? 50,000.
But it's better safe than sorry, right? So even if you need to ask, even if it's just 1,000 naira that you're putting in, it's still
all right. Cruz sends a message. It says, in my opinion, the real tragedy here is the fact that we can't litigate in reasonable time without losing in two ways. One, money to the scheme, and then time and money to the court. That is what he is saying. But quickly, there was a particular investment, and this is from a bank, an actual bank. This is a personal experience now, where you put a certain amount of money every month for 2 years. And I was like, okay, since it's a bank, I'm going to do this. Now, at the end of that 2-year period, the return on investment was not what we agreed. In fact, it was now less than 8%. They said COVID happened. And because of that, it affected a lot of things. And they were only able to return the money that you put in. But the ROI wasn't exactly the 8% as promised. It was even way less than that. Imagine putting in a lot of money and getting less than 20,000 naira as an interest after 2 years. This, for an average Nigerian, is really heartbreaking to think that, oh, you worked with a legitimate banking institution. What's your reaction, or what would your reaction be?
All right, so the first thing is, investing isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. That's the first thing I would like to point out. And even if you are getting 20,000 naira at the end of 2 years, trust me, you are in the green compared to some other investment vehicles that have actually lost that value. So what I'm trying to say is the mindset shouldn't be from, oh, after 2 years, this is what I'm getting, right? Don't look at it from that perspective, just because of how low the money is, right? Look at it from the perspective of whether or not I am investing in a legitimate business. So, for example, the questions I would like to ask is, was this a fixed return? Was this a guaranteed return? Did you read the terms and conditions properly? Because they always put these things in the fine print anytime you're investing. So this is why, again, always seek out a financial advisor that will put you through any investment scheme. And I know financial advisory services are very, very expensive. That's why I recommended Perk Partners at the beginning of the program, whereby, it's cheap financial advisory services that you get. And, people are able to tap into that, get quick financial, advisory from these platforms that are offering cheap advisory services, and then you're good to go. So always look at these things. The average guy like you, for example, I'm not sure whether or not you have, financial knowledge, and I'm not even sure whether or not you read the terms and conditions, through and through, right? I'm not saying you didn't, but I'm not sure you did, right? So because of that, those clauses might have been there, to prevent them from paying the actual discussion that you had with them in the first place. So those are the factors that you need to consider.
All right, we'll take a break now. Remember to send your messages to 0809-444-0981. Keep the calls coming right through to 01-44-89981, where we'll come back more on this conversation. Can you hear us? Ajibola, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. It's going good so far. I like the engagement. But I also wanted to ask, maybe we'll ask this if you had 100%, how many percent would you advise to, someone to invest? Some say 25% of 100, some say 50%.
Okay, so it really depends on the investment vehicle itself. Low, medium, and high risk investment vehicles. For example, cryptocurrencies, I always say don't put more than 5–10% because it's a high risk investment, right? If you're going medium risk, you can put maybe between 30–40%. Low risk investments, treasury bills, commercial papers, and the likes, higher percentage, of course, 50% and more. So that way you have a balanced out portfolio from high risk to low risk. And you're not significantly exposed anytime there's a downturn or any sorts like that.
And then another question would be,
you guys are getting free financial services, by the
way. Thank you. And then another question, I suppose, would be what to invest in when we're seeing a number of investments, especially if you want to put your money, say, in international investments, being touched and being affected by, I don't know, a war in another country.
Okay, so best things to invest in anytime you're in that situation is ETFs. In fact, I think there's an article in Nairametrics that should go up very, very soon about ETFs. Okay. The one that wrote is actually the beauty of ETFs. So basically, ETFs gives you a basket of funds. So for example, let's say Netflix was paired with Roblo or another stock like, let's just say another stock that is doing very, very well this year, right? The downturn experienced on Netflix, so far as in that basket of ETF, you are not going to experience the full decline that Netflix experienced yesterday. You understand what I'm trying to say? Or what have been experiencing yesterday. So that way you are able to edge against that. So I would say the best route when you're investing, especially high inflation, war, hawkish Federal Reserve, all these things coming into play, definitely you invest in ETFs.
YouTube, this is just for you.
ETFs means exchange traded fund.
I'm not bringing this on there, it's for YouTube only.
So we're going back.
All right.
And we're back. You're listening to Smooth 98.1 Lagos. It's Smooth Breakfast, Lagos Talks. We have a guest joining us, Ajibola Akamo. He is an investment analyst at Nairametrics, and he covers cryptocurrencies, equities, and commodities. He's got years of experience, and we've been enjoying the conversation so far.
Oh, by the way, if you want some free, credible investment advice, we took it off air, so you can find it on YouTube and click that play button and watch the replay and see what Ajibola had to say and what his advice was. Very interesting. I shall be working on some of that. Okay, so we've been talking, the conversation for today, right from the beginning of the hour, has been on Ponzi schemes. So a legitimate investment or a Ponzi scheme? What's the difference? How can we tell? And that's what we've been talking about. We've had a number of questions. So right before we went on a break, we're discussing registering of schemes and how whether or not they were being monitored, whether or not these companies were being monitored. To which Ajibola talked about, well, investment is risky. You can't step away from the risk. But one thing we can do at least is mitigate the fallouts, right? And that's where the SEC and the CBN come into play. So what moves have they made to protect investors?
To the best of my knowledge, not so much. So first thing is CBN. CBN basically monitors the monetary policy of the Nigerian economy. So they don't really have so much say in, Ponzi schemes and how to mitigate them. But the SEC so far, I've not really seen so much actions, although I've seen a lot of education from them, trying to teach people and trying to get that information out there. But so far, I haven't seen so much. And, for me, I would expect more litigation. And, I would say because our justice system is a little bit broken, I would say we need to do more in actually trying to get justice for victims of this platform, especially with this case that we brought up with the lady that scammed people of the, I think 3 billion is what you mentioned, right? So for me, I would say, the SEC can come out, the justice system in Nigeria can come out and prove its worth by actually litigating this woman, getting all the assets back and trying to reimburse these victims of this crime, right? And that way, everybody goes home happy. And, there's a lot to be learned from experiences like this, and people will make sure that, they are safe in the long run. So I would say that we need to do more. The SEC needs to do more. And, people in general, financial advisors all over the world, and also in Nigeria especially, need to do more in educating their friends, their families, people around them, and spreading that knowledge. Financial knowledge is very, very key. I personally believe financial education should be at every level of education. Whether you are a medical doctor or a surgeon, whatever, you also need that financial knowledge so that you don't fall victims of all these things. So I say fund managers, investment analysts, financial analysts all over the world, you guys need to do more in educating your peers, people that do not understand the space, people that do not really have the knowledge in the space. Talk to them, let them know. Anytime they bring up schemes like this, don't charge them, especially financial advisors. They always like to charge people for financial knowledge. But don't charge them, but actually help put them through and show them the difference between scams and actual legitimate Ponzi schemes. So that's what I'll say on that.
Okay, we've got messages coming in. Muiwa says, on how to mitigate these fake Ponzi schemes. I've always advocated for an administrator/custodian approach as used in our pension industry. The primary objective of SEC is to protect subscribers' funds. Promoters of these schemes should not be able to just walk away with people's money.
And Tayo sends a message. He says, investment and business have inherent risk. The question is, how far are people willing to go? That's a risk appetite. And what measures are available to reduce the said risk?
Yeah, so the first person that commented actually made a lot of sense, because the SEC, there's this level of custody that you have to do with pension funds that the SEC would hold just in case of, the situations of default or inability to pay. So they pay, investors from that particular, vehicle. So I think more and more people need to, find out whether or not these people are registered. That's the most important thing. Once you find that out, and then you see that they're registered with the SEC, like I said before, the chances are the SEC always have financial threshold. When I was in an investment house, and also it doubled down as a stockbroking house, there are levels of transactions. You can't have so much of the fund's money in stocks. You can't have so much of your funds, of your company's money in stocks of them, and so much of them in, for example, treasury bills or safety net investments like mutual funds and treasury bills. You also have to have a significant level of cash flow that you must maintain every single quarter. So the SEC ensures that these things are put into place to mitigate the possibility of loss, right? So that is why you always need to invest in a company that is registered with the SEC and regulated by the SEC. So it's very, very important you do that. So for the second person, can you please take that again? I didn't quite get the entire thing.
Okay, hold on one second. So how far are people willing to go, and what measures are available to reduce said risks?
All right, so that is an individual question. So for example, a young person like me, 24, do not have so much responsibilities on my head, living with my parents, I'm making a lot of money, and I'm basically trying to live life right now. I am more inclined to take high risk investments than an individual that has 2 kids, a wife, and has school fees to pay in the next 2-3 months. You understand what I'm trying to say? So that question is only going to be answered by you. So for example, my portfolio balance for me, who is the single individual that is living his best life, would be screwed more to high risk investments, opposed somebody that has kids, a whole ass family, and will be screwed more to low risk investments. So that is a very, very subjective question that I cannot answer unless I know your situation, you understand? So that's it.
Okay. And let's do a final question before we end Lagos Talks. What more do you think can be done for us to have a safer investment community?
Okay, one more. Like I said, people need to start putting things into perspective. We need to become more practical as individuals. If somebody comes up to you, giving you 80% return in a month or 2 months, and the person is telling you that we're investing in a bike business or an Okada business, yada, yada, yada. Whatever the person tells you, put it into perspective. If the person can do that, why isn't the person going to the bank to get a loan to do just that? Because interest on loan right now, I think, is around 20-something%. If the person is going to make 90, and that's per annum, if the person is going to make 90% in 2 months, he can go to the bank, collect 20 million naira, make that 90%, and then give the bank back their money and also take, his interest on it, the remaining interest on it to him. So you need to ask that question regularly. That's one.
So ask the hard questions.
Yes, ask the hard question. Definitely, financial education is very, very important. Financial education cuts across also knowing that, you can go to the SEC's website and see registered and regulated investment vehicles in the country. So that's one. Also knowing how assets work, what it means to buy a stock, what it means to buy a mutual fund, and what to expect, the degree of risk of these certain investment vehicles. You need to understand these things before you actually dive into investing in any asset class in general. For example, the risk of investing in the stock market is far less compared to the risk of you investing in a cryptocurrency, right? So you begin to now weigh those options. Is my risk appetite enough for the stock market? Is it enough for cryptocurrencies? Or if both of them don't work for me, let me look for alternative investments. There's commercial paper, there's treasury bill, there's mutual funds. There are also ETFs if I'm not trying to invest in one particular stock, right? So these questions, like I said, like you said, sorry, the hard questions, you need to ask yourself these questions, and they are only going to be possible for you to ask when you have the financial knowledge to actually ask these questions. So if you notice the trend, a lot of these Ponzi schemes, they go to low-income earners, low-income areas, advertise their business there, and swindle those people. And those are the people that are affected the most because high level of literacy and the lack of financial knowledge. So they prey on that and then use it to defraud people. Another thing I would say is ask questions. Very, very important. Ask questions. Speak to that friend that knows that friend that knows that friend that is working in Wema Bank or in Access Bank or is working in Nairametrics or any of these financial, or is working in Business Day or any of these financial advocacy organizations. Speak to people. Don't make a decision on the whim just because of how juicy they are selling the investment product to you. Take a step back and actually ask questions from people that know more than you. It's not a downgrade, it's actually helping you. Like I said, 1,000 naira is very, very important. It's not small money. So before you put in 1 kobo or 1,000 naira in any investment vehicle, always ask the difficult questions. Ask people around you. Very, very important. And finally, seek the help of financial advisors. Of course, a medical doctor to also add financial knowledge to the already bulky knowledge he has can be a little bit difficult, right? So people like that, I will advise them, go to financial advisors. You've made money as a surgeon, want to invest that money and sustain your wealth, go to a financial advisor. I know there are a lot of financial advisor services that are very, very expensive, but financial advisors like Partners, for example, very, very cheap financial services, and then you'll be able to have a one-on-one sit down with people in that organization that will actually sit down, listen to what you have, and basically advise you on whatever investment vehicles you should take and not to take, right?
So, all right, the conversation today.
Ajibola, thank you so much for joining us on Lagos Talks. It's been eye-opening, and I hope that it has helped everyone who has been listening. Thank you for sending in your messages and your questions. Yes, it's been an interesting conversation. All right, Ajibola, hopefully we'll have you on the show again once more to discuss other matters of this nature.
Of course, you can call me anytime.